Hey, welcome to Dr. Susie's Security Second. This is a series of cybersecurity shorts on security topics. So today we're going to start out with the CIA Triad. So the CIA Triad is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That's pretty easy to remember, like the CIA agency, right? But confidentiality, that's concerned with privacy, that only you and the recipient can see the information that you've allowed them to see. Integrity is the concept relating to consistency or integrity. The idea here is that only authorized individuals are allowed to modify or delete information. And availability is access, that you get access to what you need when you want it, right? So those are the main concepts, right? Now, when we talk about cybersecurity, we use controls as ways to reduce risks to something that's more acceptable. So when we talk about confidentiality, different controls that we can put in place to protect confidentiality are authentication. And so this means that you are the person who should get the information. Authentication helps us verify that. Encryption is another one, and this is using algorithms to make sure the information is not readable without the proper keys or, to decrypt that information. And then separation and isolation means putting barriers in place that have to be passed before you can gain access to that information. So those are controls we can put in place for confidentiality. For integrity, we can put also encryption in place to protect someone from modifying or deleting data that they're not authorized to. We can also use user access controls, version controls, and backup and recovery procedures. All of this is designed to make sure that if someone did modify, we could return to that original data. We can also use error detection software to find out if someone has edited data that they're not authorized to. Right. For integrity, we can also use hash values or comparisons. So that way we can use things like cryptographic checksums, which is an individual kind of code that data creates, right? And so those mechanisms should be in place to detect when the integrity has been violated. And then the other options is to restore that to its correct state, right? Availability, of course, this is getting access to information when you need it. So if there are threats to the availability of information, then we could talk about backups. Those could be offsite backups or in the cloud. We could talk about redundancy. So it could be mirroring so that we have the same data saved somewhere else that's identical. We could talk about failovers. We could talk about environmental controls and to make sure that there isn't a disaster within the server farm, that doesn't get too hot. We could talk about virtualization. And of course, disaster recovery and continuity of operations planning. And so all of those are ways to make sure that the data that we're trying to protect is still accessible. Right. And lastly, let's talk about two concepts that are related to this. So not part of our CIA triad, but still important. We've got accountability and non-repudiation. So accountability is the goal of making sure people are answerable to their actions, while non-repudiation is the technical proof that prevents them from denying what they did. So again, accountability, that means that the actions taken inside a system or a device can be traced back to the person who performed them. So if a file is deleted or a setting is changed, the system can tell who is responsible. Accountability relies on identification so that the system knows who you are. So username, password, for example. Authentication, and that is proving it's actually you, like the password piece or scanning or fingerprint. And then auditing, and that's the system keeping a continuous log of everything you do while you're logged in. So again, non-repudiation is that technical guarantee that a person cannot fake or deny their actions. So the way we can do this is digital signatures. So those are unique cryptographic stamps that only your account can create, and timestamps, which are unchangeable records of when an action happened. So again, accountability is like, the rule that people need to own up to their mistakes, and non-repudiation is the proof, like the security camera footage showing that you actually did that. So non-repudiation is a tool to achieve accountability. All right, and lastly, we have reliability. And reliability in cybersecurity refers to the system's ability to operate consistency and securely, right? And that means no failures, no compromises, right? So the relationship between security and reliability is requires balancing between, locking down a system for security versus needing to keep it accessible for reliability. Now, there's a couple pillars of reliability. The first one is availability, and that means the capability of a system to remain online and accessible when users need it. And then integrity or correctness, which means that the system is going to process data accurately and only do what it's intended to do. And then we also have resiliency, which is the system's ability to withstand or rapidly recover from failures and cyber attacks. And lastly, fault tolerance. And that's the built-in mechanisms like redundant servers and failover protocols that keep the system running smoothly, even when certain components fail. So in a nutshell, that's the beginning, the basics of cybersecurity, the CIA Triad: accountability, non-repudiation, and reliability. So thanks for listening, and we'll have another short video out for you soon.